Welcome, Nightstalkers, to another deep dive into darkness. Tonight, we begin unraveling the haunting story of Among Ashes, a tale soaked in tragedy, horror, and eldritch mysteries. Let's start at the beginning. April 2nd, 1988, the day Frank Smith's life took a nightmarish turn. Frank Smith was an ordinary man living in an ordinary town, but on that fateful spring evening, he came home to a scene that would shatter his world. His wife, Karen, had prepared dinner for the family, but something went terribly wrong. The meal was poisoned. Now, Karen was found unresponsive, and their two children, David and Amanda, were barely clinging to life. Frank acted quickly, rushing them to the hospital. While his efforts saved the children, Karen was not so lucky. The official cause? The tragic accident. But in tragedies like these, whispers of something darker are never far behind. Fast forward 4 years to December 16, 1992. The Smith family home, now shared by Frank and his children, became the site of yet another nightmare. A fire, consuming in the house and claiming the lives of Frank and his daughter Amanda. Only David survived. David, now the sole survivor, was taken in by family, but his life would never be the same. The fire was ruled an accident, but as you'll soon learn, accidents rarely come without a price in this story. The question is, was something lurking in the shadows of the Smith family's tragedy? Or someone? In the late 90s to early 2000s, David, now in his mid-20s, was living in South London, working as a computer programmer. Under his therapist's advice, he began developing a game called Nightcall, a project meant to help him confront his past. But even in his first post, he expressed concern. I have gone through some stuff in my life that could easily be triggered by this matter. Knowing what happened to his family, you can understand his hesitation. Nightcall was inspired by the games of its time, Quake, Silent Hill, and Resident Evil. Its story centered on two police officers responding to a call, a woman screaming in a secluded mansion. But as they investigate, the mansion reveals horrors tied to their own psyches. David's blog post chronicled the challenges of game development, fixing bugs, balancing mechanics, and working on story elements. But soon his updates turned troubling. David started reporting strange phenomena, audio clips, and text appearing in his game files that he swore he hadn't created. Now, he ruled this out to maybe the game was pulling from other files in his PC, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's how he excused it. One particular entry stood out. Sometimes I feel like the game is talking to me. It was as if the game itself was rewriting David's story and not just the one he was coding. On December 4, 2001, he posted his final message. I'm not really sure what you're going to see when you play this. I just know it's important that someone does. People should know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. Now, he included a download link to the game and vanished from the internet. The post sparked both concern and intrigue. Gamers flocked to download Nightcall, curious about its cryptic backstory. But just as the game was gaining attention, a chilling revelation came to light. On December 5th, 2001, just a day after, police found David's body in his flat after neighbors reported a foul smell. He had been dead for weeks, the victim of an apparent overdose. But here's the twist. David's final post, the one with the game link, it was dated December 4th, 2001. So how could a man who had been dead for weeks according to police post something just one day earlier? And who or what left the game link online? The mystery only deepened when players started reporting eerie anomalies in Nightcall, glitches that mirrored David's trauma. voices and images that seemed alive, as well as apparitions coming to life in their own life outside of the game. Knocks on the doors, people at their window. I believe that at some point in development, David's game was infected by a supernatural force, a spirit tied to David's family tragedies. Was it his mother, his sister, his father, or something far older, far darker? Whatever the truth, David's final message rings louder than ever. But now the story becomes personal. This is where you, the player, enter this nightmare. It's now December 12th, 2001, just a couple of days after the game was published. You're sitting alone in your flat, passing the time with a budget horror shooter called Demon Blood, which is really a Doom ripoff. It's just another night until your friend Mark sends you a message. He says he's got an early Christmas gift for you, or it's more like a Halloween gift. He sends a link to David's last blog. Now, with nothing better to do, you decide to install it. After all, who can say no to a free indie horror game? Especially one as cryptid and mysterious as this. I know that I would have definitely downloaded it if I stumbled upon this game in my time. Kind of like Torment, made by Green Gecko back in the day. At first, Nightcall seems like a passion project. A rough but earnest tribute to classic horror games. You explore the mansion, you uncover clues, solving puzzles, but then the glitches start. Now these were small at first. Audio clips cutting out, textures flickering. You brush it off as amateur coding until you see her. A little girl appears in the game, watching you from the shadows. Mark mentioned her before, but what he didn't tell you is that these comments weren't spoilers, they were warning. This girl isn't just a character. She's Amanda, David's younger sister, who perished in the fire that claimed their home. Somehow, Amanda's spirit has found its way into Nightcall. But why? And what does she want? The game starts bleeding into your reality. You hear knocks at your door, but when you check, no one's there. Your radio turns on by itself. The door opens to your room. Slips of paper are pushed under your door with messages written on them. You start seeing figures on the corners of your flat. But when you look again, nothing's there. Now, you try to tell Mark, after all, he's the one that sent you the link, about what's happening, but he brushes it off, laughing at your paranoia, saying that it's the neighbor pulling pranks on you. That is until the haunting reaches him. And he's not the only one. If we look at the comments on the posts in the Nightmare Fuel forum, it seems like anybody who plays Nightcall becomes a target. Amanda haunts them, pulling them into their tragedy. But she isn't the only presence in the game. As Plague Doctor posted, she's not alone. Keep playing. You also see the mom, Karen, the dad, Frank, and hints of something monstrous. There's something darker lurking, a shadow that doesn't just haunt. Now, terrified, you consider stopping. But every time you try to stop, something keeps pushing you to keep playing. What started as a game is now a nightmare you can't escape. The line between Nightcall and reality blurs further with each passing moment. The deeper you go, the more you realize Amanda's haunting isn't random. She has a message to deliver. And you're the one to hear it. Now, Among Ashes plunges us deeper into the game within the game, Nightcall. On the surface, it's a familiar story. Like I said, creepy mansion, mad scientist, and the horrors is unleashed. But Amanda's haunting glitches reveal a darker, hidden narrative. The mansion's story begins with the Doctor.
Doctor who?
Doctor Who?
An obsessed scientist determined to cure death. Early on, we find his wife zombified and grotesque. She's one of his many victims, alongside the other horrors scattered throughout the house. The gameplay focuses on solving puzzles and defeating these monstrosities, with the occasional real-life interruption of paranormal activity forcing us to pause the game and look around the flat. At first, Amanda's interference seems subtle, corrupted text, distorted visuals, whispers in the background, but as you progress, her presence grows bolder, stronger. She begins to rewrite the game itself. One of Amanda's most chilling edits is this scene, a mother and her children rotting around a dinner table. The flavor text on another scene adds a more to the haunting story, one of pain, betrayal, and denial. But Amanda's interference isn't just about revealing gruesome imagery. She begins speaking to the player directly, breaking the fourth wall. At one point, she takes control of the main character, Lorelei, gleefully admitting that she likes games too, especially the ones you play on your computer. Role-playing games are her favorite.
Sadly, my TV doesn't.
Or maybe she can play some other type of role-playing game with you. She's not just haunting the game, she's playing it alongside you. When you defeat the Doctor, his final words don't fit the game's established narrative either. Instead, they're disturbingly personal. He calls the player son, accuses you of standing by while atrocities occurred, and demands that you burn it all to hide his sins. You'll be judged for my actions, he says, as if we're complicit in everything he did, but we just got here, and we're a police officer. So this is Amanda's influence just twisting the narrative. These words seem aimed at someone specific, someone who turned a blind eye to his family's horror. Someone like David or Derek, who is the son in the game of the Doctor. Derek is hiding in his room playing video games to escape the terrors happening around him. Amanda's glitches make it clear David wasn't just a victim, he was a witness who chose to look away. Now, this moment forces players to question David's role in the tragedy. Was he truly innocent, or did he knowingly bury his guilt in his love for games? From Derek's room, you enter another layer of Nightcall, a minigame called Tree of Life. This game within a game is tied to David's fascination with the myth of an eldritch being living in old trees, granting wishes at a terrible price. A blog post from David mentions an old tree in the backyard of his childhood home, the one that was set on fire. Like the tree that you see in the cemetery, whose roots you saw dragging the Doctor's body away on defeat. The Tree of Life offers a chilling clue to the mansion's true nature, but it also gives you something tangible, a code for a pink music box. Now, the music box isn't just an in-game item. It manifests into your living room alongside a lighter and a cryptic note. The truth hides among ashes, beyond the scorching flames. The clue unlocks a hidden room in the Nightcall mansion, a child's bedroom that doesn't belong. The Doctor, as far as the story tells us, didn't have a daughter. Even the portrait in the main room when you enter the game just has a son. The room is Amanda's, another attempt to tell her story. On the bed lies a storybook, its pages telling a tragic tale of a princess who faded into the background, lost her voice, and perished in a fire while no one could hear her scream. Then there are the monkeys, representing David's willful ignorance. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Amanda forces you to confront what David refused to, the horrors of their home, and his complicity in allowing them to happen. Now, with Amanda's guidance, the pieces start coming together. The old tree, the family dinner, the fire, the sins David tried to bury in his games, but Amanda won't let them stay hidden anymore. The question is, Nightstalkers, are you ready to face the truth? Or will you look away, just like David? Now, once we get to the basement of Nightcall, we find the sub-lab.
Wait, so you're saying he had a sub-lab?
Of course he had a sub-lab. We all have sub-labs. Where do you think I keep your mother's clothes?
Mom's what?
Don't go in the basement.
Which reveals the true depths of David's creation and Amanda's vengeance. Here, the line between reality and the supernatural crumble entirely. What was once a hidden space to bury secrets becomes a labyrinth of horrors controlled by something far older and more powerful than any of us. Meet Khali, the eldritch being lurking within the roots of the oldest trees. Our first encounter with Khali is nothing short of terrifying, a monstrous, multi-limbed entity that moves with unsettling speed, chattering its teeth as it haunts you. This is no ordinary foe. This is the entity tied to the tree of life, the very thing fueling the Doctor's twisted experiments. As we evade its grasp, we notice a new symbol etched on the walls. A fusion of a tree rune and the infinity symbol, with eyes inside the infinity symbol, the mark of Khali du Sab. In the heart of the sub-basement, we uncover the Doctor's ultimate betrayal, a machine designed to harvest the Tree of Life's sap liquid resurrection. A nearby note reveals the Doctor wasn't working alone. He was funded by a secret organization obsessed with immortality. So, Umbrella. When Khali captures us, it doesn't end the game. It changes the stakes. Amanda insists on following the rules of her twisted game and Khali abides. This leads us into the next challenge, a deadly game of hide and seek. Except this time, we're hiding from a god. In this forest, you feel the weight of Khali's presence. Every step is calculated, every breath at risk. The game eventually leads us to a temple, a shrine to Khali du Sab. A statue of the entity dominates the space, surrounded by carvings of children pleading for mercy. On the walls of the tunnels, words appear in different languages. Help me, make it stop, liar, deal. These are the voices of those who've dealt with Khali and paid the price. In the depths of the pit, we discover the true cost of making a deal with this being. These cells contain the souls of Amanda's victims, or perhaps the remnants of previous deal makers. One cell, however, stands out. Amanda and Karen, daughter and mother trapped together. Amanda sitting in front of her pink music box, a symbol of her childhood innocence. Her vengeance may be justified, but Khali's price has clearly extended to her as well. After narrowly escaping Khali, we're flung back into Nightcall, but it's twisted beyond repair. The mansion has shifted. Amy and Lorelei are clearly dead, and the voice clips are beyond distorted. We finally obtain the last key needed to face the final boss, but not before a message from Mark changes everything. Now, Mark's discovery disrupts the fragile narrative Amanda has been constructing. Mark found the article on the 1992 fire, and Amanda is not happy that he's spreading the lies. But Mark's defiance costs him dearly. I believe that this was Mark's last message to us. Khali has taken him, punishing him for breaking the rules and refusing to play the game. We see this at the end of the game when Amanda sends us an MP4 file. It's Mark's final moment, captured in horrifying detail. Mark's fate is a grim reminder. Khali's influence extends beyond the game. Amanda may be the one guiding us, but Khali is the true puppet master, profiting from every deal and betrayal. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Among Ashes, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and your favorite horror game or moment that gave you chills. This is it, the end of Nightcall. But as we step into the final boss chamber, something feels wrong. Amy is here, standing in the heart of a twisted, symbolic recreation of the fire that consumed David's family home. The bed, the embers, is all a reflection of the tragedy Amanda has been trying to reveal. Now, Amy's behavior becomes unsettlingly intimate, breaking character entirely. She calls us David, despite the game establishing our character's name as Jack King, and from officer to maid is a huge career jump. This is Amanda, fully in control now. She isn't just haunting the game, she's rewriting it, and her words cut deep, accusing David of creating characters who hide from reality, to avoid the truth, saying that this is what we want, what everyone wants. That's what she was made for. We like role-playing, pretending, hiding. Just as Amanda or Amy reaches out to us, the final boss emerges. A horrific fusion of the Doctor and Frank. Its hulking, corrupted body twists and pulsates, and it says he wants to give us his seed. gross.
You too shall receive my seed.
The fight itself is a callback to classic horror games like Resident Evil 2. The mutated Frank Doctor hybrid is relentless, spewing projectiles and using grotesque tree-like appendages to attack. But it's the audio clips that steal the show. They're not aimed at us, the player, they're aimed at David. One clip stands out. She is mine, my daughter. I can do whatever I want. The implication is horrifying. With the monster defeated, Amanda takes center stage. This is her moment, the moment where she finally reveals the truth.
You can't handle the truth!
You're too late.
It's too late, she says. You can't save me. But why, David? Why did you start the fire? And there it is. The truth Amanda has been building towards. Nightstalkers, Amanda's story is tragic, terrifying, and painfully human. She wasn't just a ghost. She was a victim, a survivor, and an avenger. David may have started this game as a way to process his trauma, but Amanda hijacked it to tell her own story, and in the end, she succeeded. It's time to put the pieces together. Everything we've seen, heard, and experienced in Nightcall leads to one devastating revelation. The Smith family tragedy wasn't what the world believed it to be. It wasn't a lucky series of events. It was a nightmare born of pain, desperation, and silence. In 1988, the Smith family tragedy was first reported as a terrible accident. Karen, the mother, prepared a meal that poisoned herself and her children. She didn't survive, but Frank managed to save David and Amanda. But the truth, as Amanda reveals, is far darker. This wasn't an accident. Karen wasn't careless. She was desperate. The poison wasn't meant to harm her children. It was her last attempt to escape Frank's abuse and to save her kids from him. But Frank arrived home in time to intervene, keeping his children alive and leaving them trapped with a monster. After Karen's death, Frank's abuse escalated. Amanda, only 12 years old, became his primary target, while David, at 16, retreated into his games, headphones on, trying to drown out the horror. On December 16, 1992, Frank took Amanda's life. He strangled her, silencing her forever. And then, consumed by guilt or perhaps fear of judgment, he took his own life through an overdose. But before he died, Frank left a letter for David. In it, he asked for forgiveness and urged his son to learn from his mistakes, a twisted, hollow gesture from a man who destroyed his family. And this is where David's action takes center stage. Faced with the truth of his father's abuse and Amanda's death, David did what he had always done. He tried to hide it. He started the fire, burning the evidence of his father's crimes, including the confession letter, and burying the truth under the guise of another family tragedy. The world moved on, believing the Smith family was simply cursed. But
No
Amanda
flames
didn't
can
forget.
burn away his sins.
How could she? I believe
Among
Amanda's
the
spirit
ashes,
didn't
the
rest. She
truth
couldn't. Her brother
remains.
had erased her story and she was determined to tell it, even if it meant haunting the game he created. But Amanda wasn't alone. She made a deal with Khali, the eldritch being that David once idolized in his stories. In exchange for helping Amanda reveal the truth, Khali gained the power to take those who refuse to believe. Anyone who stops playing the game, anyone who denies Amanda's stories, just like Mark. How many others will follow? Now, David thought he could bury the truth with the fire. He thought his game would help him cope with his guilt, but Amanda had other plans. In the end, she didn't just haunt Nightcall. She completed it. She uploaded it herself, ensuring the truth would spread. And now, with news of David's death spreading, more people will find the game. More will play, more will be taken. We escaped. But others, like Mark, might not be so lucky. The cycle continues, and Amanda's voice grows louder. So here are my closing thoughts, Nightstalkers. Among Ashes isn't just a game. It's a confession, a warning, and a curse. Amanda's story is a painful reminder of the cost of silence, of ignoring the cries of those who need us most. But the question remains, was Amanda's vengeance justified? Or has her deal with Khali turned her into something as monstrous as the horror she endured? One thing's for sure. If you play Among Ashes, you're not just uncovering a story. You're stepping into it. From my dark corner of the web to yours. Farewell, Nightstalkers. Until the next nightmare.